Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 17, verse number 86. We will continue from Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhate Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Verse 86. Prabhu Lena Gela Vishveshwara Darshane Tabi Asi Dekhe Bindu Madhav Charane. Tapan Mishra then took Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to visit the temple of Vishveshwar. Coming from there, they saw the lotus feet of Lord Bindu Madhav, purported by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Bindu Madhav temple is the oldest Vishnu temple in Varanasi. At present, this temple is known as Veni Madhav, and it is situated on the banks of the Ganges. Formerly, 5 rivers converged there, and they were named Dhuta, Papa, Kirana, Saraswati, Ganga, and Yamuna. Now only the river Ganges is visible. The old temple of Bindu Madhav, which was visited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was later dismantled by Aurangzeb, the great Hindu-hating emperor of the Mughal dynasty. In the place of this temple, he constructed a big masjid or mosque. Later, another temple was constructed by the side of the mosque, and this temple is still existing. In the temple of Bindu Madhav, there are deities of 4-handed Narayan and the goddess Lakshmi. In front of these deities is a column of Sri Garud, and along the sides are deities of Lord Ram, Sita, Lakshman, and Sri Hanumanji. In the province of Maharashtra is a state known as Satara. During the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the native prince belonged to the Vaishnav cult. Being a Brahman, he took charge of worshipping the deity. He was known as Srimanta Balasaheb Pant Maharaj. The state still bears the expenditure for temple maintenance. The first king in this dynasty to take charge of worship in the temple 200 years ago, was Maharaj Jagat Jivan Rao Sahib. And as we know, this year in Ayodhya, the new temple has been started. Rather, the deity of Ramlala was then its Pran Pratishtha was done on the 22nd of January. So it all nicely connects us to the temple. Verse number 87. Ghare lena aila prabhu ke anandita hena, seva kari nritya kare vastra udana. With great pleasure, Tapan Mishra brought Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home and rendered service unto him. Indeed, he began to dance, waving his cloth. Verse number 88. Prabhura charandaka swamshe kaila pan, bhattacharera puja kaila kariya samman. He washed the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and afterwards he and his whole family drank the wash water. He also worshipped Balbhadra Bhattacharya and showed him respect. Verse 89. Prabhure nimantran kari ghare bhiksha dila, Balbhadra Bhattacharya pak karaila. Tapan Mishra received Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take lunch at his home, and he had Balbhadra Bhattacharya cook. Purport at Varanasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at the house of Tapan Mishra. Near Tapan Mishra's house was a bathing ghat known as Panchandi Ghat. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to take his bath daily at this ghat, and he used to see the temple of Bindu Madhav. Then he would take his lunch at Tapan Mishra's house. Near the Bindu Madhav temple is a big banyan tree, and it is said that after eating, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to rest beneath the tree. That banyan tree is still known today as Chaitanya Vat. Gradually, due to changes in language, the name became Yatana Vat. The local people still call that place Yatan Vat. At present, beside a lane, there is a tomb of Vallabhacharya, but there is no sign that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ever lived there. Vallabhacharya was also known as Mahaprabhu among his disciples. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu probably lived at Yatanvat, but there is no sign of Chandrasekhar's or Tapan Mishra's house, nor is there any sign of Mayavadi Sannyasi Prakashananda Saraswati with whom Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed the Vedanta Sutra. A little distance from Yatanvat is a temple of Gaura Nityananda established at Shashi Bhushan Niyogi Mahashaya of Calcutta during the time of Sri Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. This temple was managed by the mother-in-law of Shashi Bhushan and his brother-in-law Narayan Chandra Ghosh. Verse 90. Bhiksha kari Mahaprabhu karila shayana, Mishra putra Raghu kare pad samvahana. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his rest after lunch, the son of Tapan Mishra named Raghu used to massage his legs. Verse 91. Prabhura Sheshan Mishra Swamshe Khaila, Prabhu Aila Shuni Chandrasekhar Aila. The remnants of food left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were taken by the whole family of Tapan Mishra. When news spread that the Lord had come, Chandrasekhar came to see him. Verse 92. Mishrera Sakha Tenho Prabhura Purvadas Vedya Jati Likhana Vritti Varanasi Vas. Chandrasekhar happened to be a friend of Tapan Mishra's and he was long known to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As his servant, he was a physician by caste and by profession he was a clerk. At the time he was living in Varanasi. Verse 93. Asi Prabhu Pade Padi Karena Rodana Prabhu Uthi Tanre Kripaya Kaila Alingana. When Chandrasekhar came there, he fell down before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to cry. The Lord, standing up, embraced him out of his causeless mercy. Verse 94. Chandrasekhara kahe Prabhu bada kripa kaila apne asiya bhrite darshan dila. Chandrasekhar said, My dear Lord, you have bestowed your causeless mercy upon me. Because I am your old servant, indeed you have come here personally to give me your audience. Verse 95. Apan prarabdhe vasi varanasi sthane maya brahma shabda vina nahi shuni kane. Due to my past deeds, I am residing at Varanasi, but here I do not hear anything but the words Maya and Brahman. The word Prarabdhe is important in this verse. Since Chandrasekhar was a devotee, he was always eager to hear about Krishna and his transcendental pastimes. Most of the inhabitants of Benares were and are impersonalists, worshippers of Lord Shiva and followers of the Panchopashna method. The impersonalists imagine some form of the impersonal Brahman, and to facilitate meditation, they concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu, Shiva, Ganesha, Surya and Goddess Durga. Actually, these Panchopasakas are not devotees of anyone. As it is said, to be servant of everyone is to be servant of no one. Varanasi or Kashi is the chief holy place of pilgrimage for impersonalists, and it is not at all suitable for devotees. A Vaishnava likes to live in a Vishnu Tirth, a place where Lord Vishnu's temples are present. In Varanasi, there are many hundreds and thousands of Lord Shiva's temples or Panchopasak temples. Consequently, Chandrasekhar expressed great unhappiness as he informed Lord Chaitanya that he was obliged to live at Benares due to his past misdeeds. As said in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Durjati Arambhakam Papam Yatsyat Prarabdham Evatat. According to one's past misdeeds, one takes birth on a lower platform, but in the Brahma Samhita 5.54, it is said, Karmani nirdhati kintucha bhakti bhajam. There is no karma attached to the past deeds or misdeeds of one in devotional service. A devotee is not subject to karma phala, the effect of fruitive activity. Karma phala is applicable to karmis, not bhaktas. There are three kinds of devotees: those who are eternally on the transcendental platform, Nitya Siddha, those who have been elevated to the transcendental platform by the execution of devotional service, which is Sadhana Siddha, and those who are neophytes advancing toward the perfectional platform, that is Sadhaka. The Sadhakas are gradually becoming free from fruitive reaction. The Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.1.17 describes the symptoms of Bhakti Yoga as thus: Klesha Agni Shubhda Moksha Laguta Krit Sudurlabha Sandaranda Visheshatma Shri Krishna Karshini Chasa. Devotional service is Kleshagni even for beginners. This means that it reduces or nullifies all kinds of suffering. The word Shubhada indicates that devotional service bestows all good fortune, and the word Krishna Akarshini indicates that devotional service gradually attracts Krishna toward the devotee. Consequently, a devotee is not subject to any sinful reaction. In the Bhagavad-Gita 18.66, Krishna says, Sardharman parityajya mamekam sharanam varja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Thus, a fully surrendered, sincere devotee immediately receives relief from all kinds of sinful reaction. There are 3 stages of fructification for sinful activity. At one stage, one commits the sinful act before that seed of this act exists, and before that, there is ignorance whereby one commits the sin. Suffering is involved in all 3 stages. However, Krishna is merciful to his devotee, and consequently, he immediately nullifies all 3 stages: the sin, the seed of the sin, and the ignorance that leads one to the sin. The Padma Puran confirms this. Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham karmaneva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratat mamanam. For a further explanation of this topic, the Nectar of Devotion should be consulted. So I would like to repeat this. There are 3 kinds of devotees: those who are eternally on the transcendental platform, the Nitya Siddhas; those who have elevated to the transcendental platform by execution of devotional service, the Sadhana Siddha; and those who are neophytes advancing towards the perfectional platform, the Sadhakas. So the Sadhakas are the neophytes, and the Sadhana Siddhas are the ones who have been elevated to the transcendental platform of the execution of devotional service, and those who are eternally situated, they are the Nitya Siddha. So moving on to verse number 96. Shad darshan vyakya vina katha nahi eta mishra kripa kari mor shunan Krishna katha. Chandrasekhar continued, there is no talk at Varanasi other than discussions on the 6 philosophical theses. Nonetheless, Tapan Mishra has been very kind to me, for he speaks about topics relating to Lord Krishna. Purport: the 6 philosophical theses are Vaisheshika, propounded by Kannada Rishi; Nyaya, propounded by Gautam Rishi; Yoga or mysticism, propounded by Patanjali Rishi; the philosophy of Sankhya, propounded by Kapila Rishi; the philosophy of Karam Mimamsa, propounded by Jaimini Rishi; and philosophy of Brahma Mimamsa or Vedanta, the ultimate conclusion of the absolute truth, Janmadi Asya Yataha, propounded by Vedavyas. Actually, Vedanta philosophy is meant for the devotees, because in the Bhagavad-Gita 15.15, Krishna says, Vedanta krid Veda Ved eva chaham. I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Vyasadeva is an incarnation of Krishna, and consequently Krishna is the compiler of Vedanta philosophy. Therefore, Krishna clearly knows the purport of Vedanta philosophy as stated in Bhagavad-Gita. Whoever hears Vedanta philosophy from Krishna is actually aware of the real meaning of Vedanta. The Mayavadi calls themselves Vedantists but do not at all understand the purport of Vedanta philosophy. Not being properly educated, people in general think that Vedanta means the Shankarite interpretation. Verse number 97. Nirantar dunhe chinti tumare charana sarvaj Jna Ishvara Tumi Dila Darshana. My dear Lord, we too think of your lotus service, feet incessantly. Although you are the omniscient supreme personality of Godhead, you have granted us your audience. Verse number 98. Shuni Mahaprabhu Yabena Shri Vṛndāvane Dina Kaita Rahi Tar Bhritya Duijane. My Lord, I have heard that you are going to Vrindavan. Please stay here at Varanasi for some days and deliver us, for we are your two servants. Purport. Although Chandrasekhar is an eternal servant of the Lord, he humbly presented himself as fallen, and therefore he requested the Lord to deliver him and Tapan Mishra, his two servants. Verse 99. Mishra kahe Prabhu yavat kashite rahiba mora nimantran vina anya na maniba. Tapan Mishra then said, My dear Lord, as long as you stay at Varanasi, please do not accept any invitation other than mine. Verse number 99, or rather it's verse number 100. Eta mata Mahaprabhu dui bhrityara vashe ichha nahi tabu tatha rahila dina dashe. Even though he had not made such a plan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained for 10 days at Varanasi, being obligated by the request of his two servants. Verse 101. Maha Rashtriya Vipra Aise Prabhu Dekhi Bare Prabhura Roop Premi Dekhi Haya Chamatkare. At Varanasi there was a Maharashtrian Brahman who used to come daily to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This Brahman was simply astonished to see the Lord's personal beauty and ecstatic love for Krishna. Verse 102. Vipra Sabha Nimantraya Prabhu Nahi Mane Prabhu Kahe Aji Mora Hanache Nimantrane. When the Brahman of Varanasi would invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to lunch, the Lord would not accept the invitations. He would reply, I have already been invited somewhere else. Verse 103. Mata Pratidina Karena Vanchana Sanyasira Sange Sangbhai Nam Manena Nimantrana. Every day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused their invitations because he feared associating with Mayavadi sannyasis. Purport. A Vaishnav sannyasi never accepts an invitation from a party who considers Mayavadi sannyasi and Vaishnav sannyasis to be one and the same. In other words, Vaishnav sannyasis do not at all like to associate with Mayavadi sannyasis, to say nothing of eating with them. This principle must be followed by sannyasis of the Krishna consciousness movement. That is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu given by his personal behavior. Verse 104. Prakashananda Saraswati Sripada Sabhate Vasiya Vedanta Padan Pahu Shishya Gana Lena. There was great Mayavadi sannyasi named Prakashananda Saraswati who used to teach Vedanta philosophy to a great assembly of followers. Purport. Shripad Prakashananda Saraswati was a Mayavadi sannyasi and his characteristics have been described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Khand, Chapter 3. Hasta Pada Mukha Mora Nahika Lochana Veda More E Mata Kare Vidambana Kashite Padaye Veta Prakasha Ananda Sai Veta Kare More Ang Khanda Khanda Vakhaine Veda More Vigraha Na Mane Sarvange Haila Kushtha Tabu Nahi Jane Sarva Yajna Maya More ye anga pavitra aja bhava adi gaye yanhar charitra. Punya pavitrata paye ye anga parashe taha mithya bale veta kemana sahase. In the Madhya Khanda chapter 20 it is said, Sannyasi Prakashananda vasai kashite more khanda khanda veta kare bhale mate Padai Vedanta Mora Vigraha Namane Kushtha Karailun Ange Tabu Nahi Jane Satya Mora lila Karma Satya Mora Sthana Iha Mithya Bale More Kare Khan. Being an impersonalist, Prakashananda Saraswati used to explain the absolute truth as being without hands, legs, mouths, or eyes. In this way, he used to cheat the people by denying the personal form of Lord. Such a foolish person was Prakashananda Saraswati, whose only business was to sever the limbs of the Lord by proving the Lord impersonal. Although the Lord has form, Prakashananda Saraswati attempted to cut off the hands and legs of the Lord. This is the business of demons. The Vedas state that people who do not accept the Lord's forms are rascals. The form of the Lord is factual, for Krishna states in Bhagavad-Gita 15.15, Vedesh cha sarver aham eva vedyah. When Krishna says aham, he says I am, which means I, the person. He adds the word eva, which is used for conclusive verification. Thus, by studying Vedanta philosophy, one must come to know the Supreme Person. Whoever describes Vedic knowledge as impersonal is a demon. One becomes successful in life by worshipping the form of the Lord. The Mayavadi sannyasis deny the form of the Lord, which delivers all fallen souls. Indeed, the Mayavadi demons try to cut this form to pieces. The personality of Godhead is worshipped by exalted demigods, the Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. The original Mayavadi sannyasi Shankaracharya also accepted the fact that the Lord's form is transcendental. Narayanaha Paro Vyaktat. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond the Avyakta, the unmanifested material energy. Avyakta, the Andasambhavaha. This material, this material world is a creation of that unmanifested material energy. However, Narayan has his own eternal form, which is not created by the material energy. Simply by worshipping the form of the Lord, one is purified. However, Mayavadi sannyasis are impersonal philosophers, and they describe the form of the Lord as Maya or false. How can one be purified by worshipping something false? Mayavadi philosophers have no sufficient reason for being impersonalists. They blindly follow the principle that cannot be supported by reason or argument. This was the situation with Prakashananda Saraswati, the chief Mayavadi sannyasi of Benares. He was supposed to teach Vedanta philosophy, but he would not accept the form of the Lord. Therefore, he was attacked by leprosy. Nonetheless, he continued to commit sins by describing the absolute truth as impersonal. The absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always displays pastimes and activities, but Mayavadi sannyasis claim that these activities are false. Some people falsely claim that Prakashananda Saraswati later became to known as Prabodhananda Saraswati, but this is not a fact. Prabodhananda Saraswati was the uncle of and spiritual master of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. In his Grihastha life, Prabodhananda Saraswati was a resident of Sriranga Kshetra, and he belonged to the Vaishnav Ramanuja Sampradaya. It is a mistake to consider Prakashananda Saraswati and Prabodhananda Saraswati the same man. Verse 105, Eka Vipra dekhi aila prabhura vyavhar, Prakashananda aage kahe charitra tanhar. A Brahman who saw the wonderful behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Prakashananda Saraswati and described the Lord's characteristics. Verse 106, Eka sannyasi aila Jagannath haite tanharan mahima pratap na pari varnite. The Brahmins told Prakashananda Saraswati, there is a sannyasi who has come from Jagannath Puri, and I cannot describe his wonderful influence and glories. Verse 107, Sakal dekhiye tante adbhut kathana prakand sharira shuddha kanchana varan. Everything is wonderful about that sannyasi. He has a very well built and luxuriant body, and his complexion is like purified gold. Verse 108, Ajanu lambit bhuja kamala nayana yat kichu ishwarera sarvasal lakshana. He has arms that extend to his knees, and his eyes are like the petals of a lotus. In his person are all transcendental symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse 109, Taha dekhi Jnana haya ei Narayana, ye tanre dekhe kare Krishna Sankirtana. When one sees all these features, one takes him to be Narayan himself. Whoever sees him immediately begins to chant the holy name of Krishna. Verse 110. Mahabhagavat Lakshana Shuni Bhagavate Se Sabha Lakshana Prakat Dekhiya Tanhate. We have heard about the symptoms of a first-class devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam, and all these symptoms are manifest in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 111. Nirantar Krishna Nama Jihva Tanra Gaya Dui Netre Ashru Vahe Ganga Dhar Praya. His tongue is always chanting the holy name of Krishna, and from his eyes tears incessantly fall like the flowing Ganges. Verse 112. Kshane nache hase gaye kare krandana kshane huhunkar kare simhera garjan. Sometimes he dances, laughs, sings and cries, and sometimes he roars like a lion. Verse 113. Jagat Mangal Tanra Krishna Chaitanya Nam Nama Rupa Guna Tanra Sabha Anupama. His name Krishna Chaitanya is all auspicious for the world. Everything about him, his name, form and qualities, is unparalleled. Verse 114. Dekhile sajani jani Tanra Ishwarera Riti Alaukika Katha Shuni Ke Kare Pratiti. Simply by seeing him, one understands that he possesses all the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such characteristics are certainly uncommon. Who will believe it? Shuniya Prakashananda Bahut Hasila Vipre Upahasa Kari Kahite. Lagila. Prakashananda Saraswati laughed very much to hear this description. Joking and laughing at the Brahman, he began to speak as follows. Verse 116. Shuniyachi Gauda Deshera Sannyasi Bhavuka Keshava Bharati Shishya Loka Prataraka. Prakashananda Saraswati said, yes, I have heard about him. He is a sannyasi from Bengal and he is very sentimental. I have also heard that he belongs to the Bharati Sampradaya, for he is a disciple of Keshav Bharati. However, he is only a pretender. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was considered bhavuk or sentimental because he was always seen in the bhava stage. That is, he always exhibited ecstatic love for Krishna. However, foolish people considered him sentimental. In the material world, so-called devotees sometimes exhibit emotional symptoms. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love cannot be compared to the imitative emotional exhibitions of pretenders. Such exhibitions do not continue for very long. They are temporary. We actually see that some emotional imitators exhibit certain symptoms, but immediately after their exhibition, they are attracted to smoking and other things. In the beginning, when Prakashananda Saraswati heard of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities, he considered them to be those of a pretender. Consequently, he called him a Loka Prataraka, a pretender. Mayavadis cannot understand the transcendental symptoms exhibited by a devotee. Therefore, when such symptoms are manifest, the Mayavadis equate them with the temporary emotional feelings. However, Prakashananda Saraswati's statement is offensive, and consequently he should be considered an atheist or Pashandi. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, since Prakashananda Saraswati was not engaged in the Lord's devotional service, his sannyas is to be considered Phalgu Vairagya. This means that since he did not know how to use things for the Lord's service, his renunciation for the world was artificial. So, verse 117 now. Chaitanya Nama Tanra Bhavuk Ganalena Deshe Deshe Grame Grame Bule Nachana. Prakashananda Saraswati continued, I know that his name is Chaitanya and he is accompanied by many sentimentalists. The followers dance with him and he tours from country to country and village to village. Verse 118. Ye tanre dekhe se Ishwar kari kahe aiche mohan vidya ye dekhe se mohe. Whoever sees him accepts him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. since he has some mystic power by which he hypnotizes people. Everyone who sees him becomes illusioned. Verse 119. Sarvam Bhattacharya Pandit Prabala Shuni Chaitanyere Sange Haila Pagala. Sarvam Bhattacharya was a very learned scholar, but I have heard that he also became a madman due to his association with this Chaitanya. Verse 120. Sannyasi Naam Matra Maha Indra Jali Kashipure Na Vikabe Tandra Bhavakali. This Chaitanya is a sannyasi in name only. Actually, he is a first-class magician. In any case, his sentimentalism cannot be very much in demand here in Kashi. Verse 121. Vedanta Shravan Kara Na Yaiha Tandrapasha Uchrinkala Lok Sange Dui Lok Nash. Do not go to see Chaitanya, just continue hearing Vedanta. If you associate with upstarts, you will not be lost in the world and the next. Purport: the word Uchrinkala means whimsical, is significant in this world. In the Bhagavad-Gita 16.23, Lord Krishna himself says, Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsrijya Vartate Kama Karatah Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Nasu Sukham Na Param Gatim. If one acts whimsically and does not follow the Shastric principles, he will never attain perfection, happiness, or the spiritual world. Verse 122. Eta Shuni sa Vipra Maha Dukha Paila Krishna Krishna Kahi Tatha Haite Uti Gela. When the Brahman heard Prakashananda Saraswati speak like this about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became very much grief-stricken. Chanting the holy name of Krishna, he immediately left. Verse 123. Prabhura darshane shuddha hanache tandra manas Prabhu age dukhi hena kahe vivarna. The mind of the Brahman was already purified by his seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He therefore went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and described what had taken place before the Mayavadi sannyasi Prakashananda. Verse 124. Shuni Mahaprabhu tabe ishat Hasila Punarapi se Vipra Prabhure Puchila. Hearing that this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mildly smiled, the Brahman then spoke again to the Lord. The page is not loading up. I'm hoping it to load up. Verse 125. Tar aage yabe ami tomar naam laila seha tomar naam jane apne kahila. The Brahman said, as soon as I uttered your name before him, he immediately confirmed the fact that he knew your name. Verse 126. Tomar dosha kahite kare na mera uchara chaitanya chaitanya kari kahe teen bar. While finding fault with you, he uttered your name 3 times, saying Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya. Verse 127. Teen bare Krishna naam na aila tar mukhe avajna te naam layashuni pai dukhe. Although he speaks your name 3 times, he did not utter the name Krishna because he uttered your name in a contempt. I was very much aggrieved. Purport: Prakashananda Saraswati vilified and blasphemed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Words like Brahma, Chaitanya, Atma, Paramatma, Jagadish, Ishwar, Virat, Vibhu, Bhauma, Bhuma, Vishwarupa and Vyapak all indirectly indicate Krishna. However, the chanter of these names is not actually attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna and his transcendental pastimes. One may get a little light from these names, but one cannot understand that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord. One considers the Lord's names material due to poor fund of knowledge. Mayavadi philosophers and the Panchopasakas cannot see in the least understand the existence of the spiritual world and the blissful variegatedness there. They cannot understand the absolute truth and its spiritual varieties, name, form, qualities and pastimes. Consequently, they conclude that Krishna's transcendental activities are Maya. To To avoid this misconception, one has to directly cultivate knowledge about the holy name of the Lord. Mayavadi philosophers do not know this fact and therefore they commit great offenses. One should not hear anything about Krishna or devotional service from the mouths of Mayavadi impersonalists. Verse 128. Ihar karan mor kahe kripa kari, toma dekhi mukha mor bale Krishna hari. Why could Prakashananda could not utter the names of Krishna and Hari? He chanted the name Chaitanya thrice. As far as I am concerned, simply by seeing you, I am moved to chant the holy name Krishna and Hari. Verse 129. Prabhu kahe Mayavadi Krishna aparadhi, Brahma Atma Chaitanya kahe niravadhi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Therefore, they simply utter the words Brahman, Atma and Chaitanya. Verse number 130. Ataiv tar mukhe na aise Krishna naam Krishna Swarup Duita Saman. Because they are offenders unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is identical with his holy name. The holy name Krishna does not manifest in their mouths. Verse 131. Nama Vigraha Swarupa Tina Ekarupa Tina Bheda Nahi Tina Chidananda Rupa. The Lord's holy name, his form and his personality are all one and the same. There is no difference between them since all of them are absolute. They are all transcendently blissful. So the name, the form and the Swarup of the Lord are all same. The name, the deity and Swarup is the form. They are all Chidananda Rup. Verse 132. Deha dehira naam namira Krishna nahi bheda jivera dharma naam deha swarupe vibheda. There is no difference between Krishna's body and himself or between his name and himself, but as far as the conditioned soul is concerned, one's name is different from one's body, from one's original form and so on. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is herein pointing out to the Brahmana that Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand that the living entity is equal in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they do not accept this, they think that the living entity has been falsely divided from the original Brahman due to being conditioned by Maya. Mayavadis believe that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal. When an incarnation of God or God himself comes, they think he is covered by Maya. In other words, Mayavadi impersonalists think that the Lord's form is also a product of his material world, of this material world. Due to poor fund of knowledge, they cannot understand that Krishna has no body separate from himself. His body and himself are both the same absolute truth. Not having perfect knowledge of Krishna, such impersonalists certainly commit offenses at his lotus feet. Therefore, they do not utter Krishna, the original name of the absolute truth. In the impersonal way, they utter the name of impersonal Brahman, spirit soul. In other words, they indulge in indirect indications of absolute truth, even if they happen to utter Krishna or Madhav, the person. So I'll repeat, they cannot understand that these names are as good as Govinda, Krishna or Madhav, the person. Because they are ultimately impersonalists, their uttering of the personal name has no potency. Actually, they do not believe in Krishna but consider these names to be material vibrations. Not being able to appreciate the holy name of the Lord, they simply utter indirect names of like Brahman, Atma and Chaitanya. It is a fact that however that the name of Krishna and Krishna the person are both spiritual. Everything about Krishna is transcendental, blissful and objective. For a conditioned soul, the body is different from the soul, and the name given by the Father is also different from the soul. The conditioned living entity's identification with material objects keeps him from attaining his actual position. Although he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he acts differently. The Swarup or actual identification of the living entity is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Jivera Swarupahaya Krishnera Nityadas. The conditioned soul has forgotten the real activities of his original position. However, this is not the case. Krishna's name and his person are identical. There is no such thing as Maya Krishna, because Krishna is not a product of the material creation. There is no difference between Krishna's body and his soul. Krishna is simultaneously both body and soul. The distinction between body and soul applies to conditioned souls. The body of the conditioned soul is different from the soul, and the conditioned soul's name is different from his body. One may be named Mr. John, but if we call him Mr. John may never actually appear. However, if we utter the holy name of Krishna, Krishna is immediately present on our tongue. In the Padma Puran, Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Yatra Gayanti Tatra Tishthanthami Narada. O Narada, I am present wherever my devotees are chanting. When the devotees chant the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Lord Krishna is immediately present. So the meaning of this, what Mahaprabhu said, Jivera Swarupahaya Krishnera Nityadas, means that the conditioned soul has forgotten the real activities of his original position. Krishna is simultaneously body and the soul, and the conditioned soul is not the body, just the soul. Verse number 133. Nama Chinta Mani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Puranaha Shuddho Nitya Mukto Bhinnatvan Nama Namino. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of its being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of spiritual material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. Purport: this is a quotation from Padma Puran. Verse number 134. Atayava Krishnera Nama Deha Vilasa Prakritendriya Grahya Nahi Haya Swaprakash. The holy name of Krishna, his body and his pastimes cannot be understood by the blunt material senses. They are manifested independently. Purport: since Krishna's transcendental body, name, form, qualities, pastimes and entourage are all the absolute truth, they are as good as Krishna himself, Satchid Anand Vigraha. As long as the living entity is conditioned by the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance, the objects of his material senses, material form, taste, smell, sound and touch will not help him understand spiritual knowledge and bliss. Rather, these are revealed to the pure devotee. One's material name, form and qualities are certainly different from one another. In the material world, there is no conception of absolute. However, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we find that there is no material difference between Krishna's body and his names, activities and entourage. Verse 135. Krishna Nama, Krishna Guna, Krishna Lila Vrinda, Krishnera Sarupa Sama Sabachid Ananda. Krishna's holy name, transcendental qualities and transcendental pastimes are all equal to Lord Krishna himself. They are all spiritual and full of bliss. Verse 136. Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriya sevon mukhe hi jivado Swayam ev sfurti adaha. Therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna's consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who really Krishna is. Who Krishna really is. Purport: this verse is recorded in the Bhakti Samrit Sindhu 1.2.234. Verse 137. Brahmananda haite purnananda lila ras. Brahma jnani akarshiya kare atmavasha. The mellows of Lord Krishna's pastimes, which are full of bliss, attract the jnani from the pleasure of Brahman realization and conquer him. Purport: when one understands that he belongs not to the material world but to the spiritual world, one is called liberated. Being situated in the spiritual world is certainly pleasurable, but those who realize the transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Lord Krishna enjoy transcendental bliss many times more than one who has simply realized the self. When one is situated on the platform of self-realization, he can certainly be easily attracted by Krishna and become a servant of the Lord. This is explained in the Bhagavad-Gita 18.54. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samaha sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. When one becomes spiritually realized, Brahmas Bhuta, he becomes happy Prasannatma, for he is relieved from the material conceptions. One who has attained this platform is not agitated by material action and reaction. He sees everyone on the platform of spirit soul, Panditaha Samadarshina. When one is completely realized, he can rise to the platform of pure devotional service, Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. When one comes to the platform of bhakti, devotional service, he actually realizes who Krishna is. As the Lord says in Bhagavad-Gita 18.55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yashchashmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato jnatva vishate tad anantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service, and when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. It is only on the bhakti platform that one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his transcendental name, form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage. Being thus qualified spiritually, one is allowed to enter the spiritual kingdom of God and return home back to Godhead. Vishate tad anantaram. Verse 138. Swasukha nibrita chetas tad vyudustanya bhavo api ajita ruchira lila krishta sarastadiyam vyatunata kripaya yastatva deepam puranam tam akhila vrijina ghadam vyasa shunum nato smi. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the son of Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami. It is he who defeats all inauspicious things within this universe. Although in the beginning he was absorbed in the happiness of Brahman realization and was living in a secluded place, giving up all types of consciousness, he became attracted by the most melodious pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. He therefore mercifully spoke the supreme Puran known as Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the bright light of the absolute truth and which describes the activities of Lord Krishna. Purport: this verse was spoken by Sutta Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.12.69. So as we can see, Shukadev Goswami was the son of Vyasadeva and Sutta Goswami was the disciple of Shukadev Goswami. So from verse 138, let's move on to verse 139. Brahmananda haite Purnananda Krishna guna ataiva akarshaye atmaramera mana. The transcendental qualities of Sri Krishna are completely blissful and relishable. Consequently, Lord Krishna's qualities attract even the minds of self-realized persons from the bliss of self-realization. Verse 140. Atmaramascha munayo nigrantha api urukrame kurvanti ahaitukim bhaktim Itham bhuta guno hari. Those who are self-realized and unattracted by the external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. Verse 141. Aisava rahu Krishna charana sambandhe atmaramera manar hare tulsira gandhe. Apart from the pastimes of Lord Krishna, when tulsi leaves are offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, even the aroma of the leaves attracts the minds of self-realized persons. Verse 142. Tasya ravinda nayanasya padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayuh Antargataha Swavivaranena Chakar Tesham Sankshobham Akshara Jusham Api Chitta Tanvoh. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves and saffron from the lotus feet of the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead entered through the nostrils into the hearts of those sages, the Kumaras, they experienced a change in both body and mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. Purport: this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.43. Vidur and Maitreya discussed the pregnancy of Diti. Diti's pregnancy caused the demigods to be very much afraid, and the demigods went to see Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma explained the original incident involving the cursing of Jai and Vijay by the Chatushna Kumaras. Since the Chatushna Kumaras went to Vaikuntha to visit Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once the Chatushna Kumars went to Vaikuntha to visit Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they were stopped from entering the palace at the 7th gate by the two doorkeepers named Jai and Vijay. Due to their jealousy, Jai and Vijay would not allow the Kumaras entry, and consequently the Kumaras became angry and cursed Jai and Vijay, condemning them to take birth in a family of Asuras in the material world. The omniscient personality of Godhead could immediately understand the incident, and he came with his eternal consort, the goddess of fortune. The Chatushna Kumars immediately offered their obeisances unto the Lord. Similarly, simply by seeing the Lord and smelling the aroma of tulsi and saffron from his lotus feet, the Kumars became devotees and abandoned their long-cherished impersonalism. Thus the four Kumars were turned into Vaishnavas simply by smelling the aromatic tulsi mixed with saffron. Those who are actually on the platform of Brahman realization and those who have not offended the lotus feet of Krishna can immediately become Vaishnavas simply by smelling the aroma of the Lord's lotus feet. But those who are offenders or demons are never attracted to Lord's personal feature, even though they may visit the Lord's temple many times. In Vṛndāvana, we have seen many Mayavadi sannyasis who do not even come to the temple of Govindji, Gopinath or Madan Mohan because they think that such temples are Maya. Therefore, they are called Mayavadis. Lord Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said that the Mayavadis are the greatest offenders. Verse 143. Atev Krishna Nama na aise tar mukhe Mayavadi gana yate maha bahir mukhe. Because the Mayavadis are great offenders and atheistic philosophers, The holy name of Krishna does not come from their mouths, purport because they are constantly blaspheming the Supreme Personality of Godhead by saying that he has no head, hands, or legs. Mayavadi philosophers remain offenders for many, many births, even though they have partially realized Brahman. However, such impersonalists are not offenders at the lotus feet of the Lord. They immediately become devotees in the association of a devotee. In other words, if an impersonalist is not an offender, he can become a devotee if he gets a chance to associate with other devotees. If he is an offender, he cannot be converted even by the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very much afraid of this Mayavadi offender. Therefore, he spoke as follows. Verse 144, Bhavakali vechite ami alin ailena kashipure grahaka nahi na vikaya lena yabe ghare. I have come here to sell my emotional ecstatic sentiments in this city of Kashi, but I cannot find any customers. If they are not sold, I must take them back home. Verse 145, Bhari bojha lena ailan ke mane lena yab alpa swalpa mulya paile ethai vechiba. I have brought a heavy load to sell in the city. To take it back again is a very difficult job. Therefore, I get but a fraction of the price. I shall sell it here in this city of Kashi. Purpose, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was selling the transcendental holy name of the Lord. But Kashi was a city of the Mayavadis or the impersonalists who don't consider the person Krishna as having a personal form. And such people will never chant the holy name of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling disappointed. How could he teach the Mayavadis the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? The attraction for chanting the holy name of the Lord belongs absolutely to pure devotees, and there was no possibility of finding pure devotees at Kashi. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's commodity was certainly very heavy. The Lord therefore suggests that even though there were no pure devotees in Kashi, if someone was a little inclined to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he would deliver this big load, although the proper price was not paid. Actually, we experienced this when we came to preach the Hare Krishna movement in the West. When we came to New York, Prabhupada is saying, in 1965, we never expected that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra would be accepted in this country. Nonetheless, we invited people to our storefront to join in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and the Lord's holy name is so attractive that simply by coming to our storefront in New York, fortunate young people became Krishna conscious. Although this mission was started with insignificant capital, it is now going nicely. The spreading of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the West has become successful because the young people were not offenders. The youths who joined this movement were not very advanced as far as purity is concerned, nor were they very well educated in Vedic knowledge, but because they were not offenders, they could accept the importance of the Hare Krishna movement. We are now very happy to see that this movement is advancing more and more in Western countries. We therefore conclude that the so-called Mlechas and Yavanas of the Western countries are more purified than the offensive Mayavadis or atheistic impersonalists. Verse 146, Eta bali se vipre atmasat kari prate uthi mathura chalila Gaurahari. Gaurahari, after saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted that Brahman as his devotee. The next morning, rising very early, the Lord started for Mathura. Verse 147, Se teen sange chale prabhur nishedila dur haite teen jane ghare pathaila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started for Mathura, all three devotees started to go with him, but the Lord forbade them to accompany him, and from a distance he asked them to return. Verse 148, Prabhura virahe tine ekatra miliya Prabhu gunagan kare preme matalena hena. Feeling separation from the Lord, the three used to meet and glorify the holy qualities of the Lord. Thus they were absorbed in ecstatic love. Verse 149. Prayage Asiya Prabhu Kaila Veni Sthana Madhav Dekhiya Preme Kaila Nritya Gan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to Prayag, where he bathed in the confluence of the Ganges and the Yamuna. He then visited the temple of Veni Madhav and chanted and danced there in ecstatic love. Purport: the city of Prayag is situated a few miles from the city of Allahabad. The name Prayag is given due to successful sacrifices performed there. It is said that Prakarishto Yago Yag Phalam Yasmat. If one performs sacrifice at Prayag, he certainly gets immediate results without difficulty. Prayag is also called Tirthraj, the king of all places of pilgrimage. This holy place is situated on the confluence of the rivers Ganges and Yamuna. Every year a fair takes place there known as Magh Mela, and every 12 years a Kumbh Mela is also held. In my case, many people many people come to bathe there every year. During Magh Mela, people from the local district generally come, and during Kumbh Mela, people from all over India to live there and bathe in the Ganges and Yamuna. Whoever goes there immediately feels the place's spiritual influence. A fort located there was constructed by the Emperor Akbar about 500 years ago, and near the fort is a place called Triveni. On the other side of Prayag is an old place known as Pratishtanpura. It is also known as Jhunsi. Many saintly people live there, and consequently it is very attractive from the spiritual point of view. Verse 150. Yamuna dekhiya preme pade jhanpa diya aste vyaste bhattacharya uthaye dhariya. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the river Yamuna, he threw himself into it. Balbhadra Bhattacharya hastily caught the Lord and very carefully raised him up again. Verse 151. E mata teen din prayagya rahila Krishna naam prem diya lok nistarila. The Lord stayed at Prayag for 3 days. He delivered the holy name of Krishna and ecstatic love. Thus he delivered many people. Verse 152. Mathura chalite pathe yatha rahiyaya Krishna naam prem diya lokera nachay. Wherever the Lord stopped to rest on the way to Mathura, he delivered the holy name of Krishna and ecstatic love of Krishna. Thus he made the people dance. Verse 153. Purve yena dakshina yaite lok nistarila paschima deshe taiche sava Vaishnav karila. When the Lord toured South India, he delivered many people, and when he traveled in the western sector, he similarly converted many people to Vaishnavism. Purport: formally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted people when he toured southern and western India. Similarly, the Hare Krishna movement is now delivering the people of the western world. Wherever devotees are chanting the holy names, this is all being done by the Lord's mercy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted that he would deliver people in every city and village of the world by giving them a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Verse 154. Pathe yahan yahan haya yamuna darshana tahan jhanpa diya pade preme achetan. While the Lord was going to Mathura, he came across the river Yamuna several times, and as soon as he saw the river Yamuna, he would immediately jump in, falling unconscious in the water in the ecstasy of love of Krishna. Verse 155. Mathura nikate aila Mathura dekhiya dandavat hena pade prema vishta hena. When he approached Mathura, he saw the city. He immediately fell to the ground and offered obeisances with great ecstatic love. Verse 156. Mathura Asiya Kaila Vishranti Tirthe Snana Janma Sthane Keshava Dekhi Karila Pranam. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the city of Mathura, he took his bath at Vishram Ghat. He then visited the birthplace of Krishna and saw the deity named Keshavji. He offered his respectful obeisances to this deity. At the present moment, the temple of Keshavji is very much improved. At one time, Keshavji Mandir was attacked by the Emperor Aurangzeb, who constructed such a big mosque there that the temple of Keshavji was insignificant in comparison, but with the help of many rich Marwadis, the temple has been improved and a very large temple is now being constructed, so that the mosque is now appearing diminished in comparison. Many archaeological discoveries have been made there, and many people from foreign countries are beginning to appreciate Krishna's birthplace. The Krishna consciousness movement is attracting many foreigners to the Keshavji temple, and now they will also be attracted by the Krishna Balram temple in Vṛndāvana. Verse 157. Premanande nache गाय सघन हुंकार प्रभुरा प्रेमा वेशे देखी लोके चमत्कार. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted, danced and made loud vibrations, all the people were astonished to see his ecstatic love. Verse 158. Eka vipra pade prabhura charan dhariya prabhu sange nritya kare prema vishtahena. Once Brahmana fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then began to dance with him in ecstatic love. Verse 159. Dunhe preme nritya kari kare kola kuli Hari Krishna kaha dunhe bale bahuli. The two of them danced in ecstatic love and embraced each other, raising their arms. They said, chant the holy names of Hari and Krishna. Verse 160. Loka Hari Hari bale kolahal haila Keshav sevak prabhu ke mala paraila. All the people then began to chant Hari Hari, and there was a great uproar. The priest in Lord Keshav's service offered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a garland. Verse 161. Loka kahe prabhu dekhi hena vismay aiche hena prema lokika prabhu naya. When the people saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and chanting, they were struck with wonder, and they all said, such transcendental love is never an ordinary thing. Verse 162. Yanhara darshane loke prema matta hena hase kande nache gaye Krishna naam lena. The people said, simply by seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone is maddened with love of Krishna. Indeed, everyone is laughing, crying, dancing, chanting, and taking the holy name of Krishna. Verse 163. Sarvatha nishchita inho Krishna avatar mathura aila lokera karite nistar. Certainly Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in all respects the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Now he has come to Mathura to deliver everyone. Verse 164. Tabe Mahaprabhu se brahmane lena tanhare puchila kichu nibrite vasiya. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the brahmana aside. Sitting in a solitary place, the Lord began to question him. Verse 165. Arya saral tumi vridha brahmana kahan haite paile tumi a prema dhana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are an elderly Brahman, you are sincere and you are advanced in spiritual life. Where from have you gotten this transcendental opulence of ecstatic love for Krishna? Verse 166. Vipra kahe Shripad Shri Madhavendra Puri Brahmite Brahmite Aila Mathura Nagari. The Brahman replied, the holiness Srila Madhavendra Puri came to the city of Mathura while he was on tour. Verse 167. Kripa kari tenho more nilaye aila more shishya kari more hate bhiksha kaila. While at Mathura, Shripad Madhavendra Puri visited my house and accepted me as disciple. He even took lunch at my home. Verse 168. Gopal prakat kari seva kaila mahashay. Adyapiha tanhar seva govardhane haya. After installing the deity of Gopal, Sri Madhavendra Puri rendered him service. That very deity is still being worshipped at Govardhan Hill. Verse 169. Shuni Prabhu Kaila Tanra Charan Vandan Bhaya Pancha Prabhu Paya Padila Brahmana. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about Madhavendra Puri's relationship with the Brahmana, he immediately offered obeisances at his feet. Becoming fearful, the Brahmana also immediately fell at the Lord's feet. Verse 170, Prabhu kahe tumi guru ami shishya pray guru hena shishya namaskar na yuyai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are on the platform of my spiritual master and I am your disciple. Since you are my spiritual master, it is not befitting that you offer me obeisances. Verse 171, Shunya vismita pipra kahe bhaya pana aiche baat kah kene sannyasi hena. Upon hearing this, the Brahman became afraid. He then said, why do you speak like this? You are a sannyasi. Verse 172, Kintu tumar prem dekhi mane anumani Madhavendra purira sambandha dhara jani. Upon seeing your ecstatic love, I can just imagine that you have some relationship with Madhavendra Puri. This is my understanding. Verse 173, Krishna prema tanha yanha tanhar sambandha tahan vina ei premar kahan nahi gandha. This kind of ecstatic love can be experienced only when one has a relationship with Madhavendra Puri. Without him, even a scent of such transcendental ecstatic love is impossible. Verse 174, Tabe bhattacharya tare sambandha kahila shuni anandita vipra nachite lagila. Balbhadra Bhattacharya then explained the relationship between Madhavendra Puri and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After hearing this, the Brahman became very pleased and began to dance. Verse 175, Tabe vipra prabhure lena aila nij ghare apana ichhai prabhura nana seva kare. The Brahman then took Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home and out of his own free will he began to serve the Lord in various ways. Verse 176, Bhiksha lagi bhattacharya karaila randhana tabe Mahaprabhu hasi balila vachana. He asked Balbhadra Bhattacharya to cook Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lunch. At that time the Lord smilingly spoke as follows. Verse 177, Puri Gosani tomar ghare karyachena bhiksha more tumi bhiksha dehe ei mora shiksha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Madhavendra Puri has already taken lunch at your place, therefore you may cook and give me the food. That is my instruction. Verse 178, Yadyad acharti shreshthas tattad evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. This is a purport. This purport is a quotation from Bhagavad-Gita, verse number 3.21. Verse 179, Yadyapi Sanoriya haya seta brahmana Sanoriya ghare sannyasi na kare bhojana. The Brahman belonged to the Sanoriya Brahman community and the sannyasi does not accept food from such a Brahman. This is verse 179. In northwestern India, Vaishyas are divided into various subdivisions. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur points out that they are divided as Agarwal, Kalawar and Sanawar. Out of them, the Agarwals are said to be the first-class Vaishyas and the Kalawars and Sanawars are considered lower due to their occupational degradation. The Kalawars generally take wine and other intoxicants. Although they are Vaishyas, they are considered to belong to a lower caste. The priests who guide the Kalavars and Sanavars are called Sanoriya Brahmins. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states the word Sanoriya in Bengal indicates Suvarna Vanik. In Bengal, there are priests who guide the Suvarna Vanik community. This is the goldsmith community, which is also considered a low caste. There is little difference between the Sanavars and the Suvarna Vaniks. Generally, the Suvarna Vaniks are bankers dealing in gold and silver. In Western India, the Agarwals also belong to the banking profession. This is the original business of the Suvarna Vanik or Agarwal community. Historically, the Agarwals came from the upcountry named Ayodhya, and the Suvarnavani community also came from Ayodhya. It therefore appears that the Suvarnavaniks and the Agarwals belong to the same community. The Sanodia Brahmins were the guides of Kalavars and Sanavars. They are therefore considered to be lower class Brahmanas, and the sannyasi is not allowed to take alms or food from them. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted lunch cooked by the Sanodia Brahman simply because he belonged to Madhavendra Puri's community. Srila Madhavendra Puri was a spiritual master of Ishwar Puri, who was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, as spiritual relationship is established on the spiritual platform without consideration of material inferiority or superiority. Verse 180, Tathapi Puri Dekhi Tandra Vaishnav Achara Shishya Kari Tandra Bhiksha Kaila Angikar. Although the Brahman belonged to the Sanodia Riya community, Srila Madhavendra Puri had seen that he behaved like a Vaishnav and had therefore accepted him as his disciple. The food he had cooked had also been accepted by Madhavendra Puri. Verse 181, Mahaprabhu Tandre Yadi Bhiksha Magila Den Kari Se Vipra Kahite Lagila. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu willingly requested food from Brahman, and the Brahman, feeling natural humility, began to speak as follows. Verse 182, Tomar Bhiksha Diba Bada Bhagya Se Amar Tumi Ishwar Nahi Tomar Vidhi Vyavhar. It is a great fortune for me to offer you food. You are the Supreme Lord, and being in the transcendental position, you are not restricted in any way. Verse 183, Murkha Loka Karibeka Tomar Nindana Sahita Na Parimu Se Dushte Ravachana. Foolish people will blaspheme you, but I shall not tolerate the words of such mischievous people. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that although the Brahman did not belong to a superior community, he fearlessly chastised so-called caste Brahmins because he was situated on the platform of pure devotional service. There are people who are opposed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's accepting a Vaishnava belonging to a lower caste. Such people do not consider Mahaprasadam transcendental, and therefore they are described here as Murkh or foolish and Dusht or mischievous. A pure devotee has the power to challenge such high caste people, and his brave statements are not to be considered proud or puffed up. On the contrary, he is to be considered straightforward. Such a person does not like to flatter high-class Brahmanas who belong to the non-Vaishnav community. Verse 184, Prabhu kahe Shruti Smriti Yata Rishi Gana Sabe Eka Mata Nahe Bhinna Bhinna Dharma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the Vedas, Purans and the great learned sages are not always in agreement with one another. Consequently, there are different religious principles. Purport: unless one comes to the absolute truth, there is no possibility of agreement. Nasha Vrishir Yasya Matam Na Bhinnam. It is said that a great learned scholar or sage cannot be exalted unless he agrees with other scholars and sages. On the material platform, there is no possibility of agreement. Therefore, there are different kinds of religious systems. But the absolute truth is one, and when one is situated in the absolute truth, there is no disagreement. On that absolute platform, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable. It is as stated in the Bhagavad-Gita 18.55, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati Yavan Yash Chashmi Tatvatah. On the absolute platform, the worshipful deity is one, and the process of worship is also one. That process is bhakti. There are many different religions throughout the world because they are not all on the absolute platform of devotional service, as confirmed in Bhagavad-Gita 18.66. Sarv Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. The word Ekam means one, Krishna. On this platform, there are no different religious systems according to Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. Dharmaha projihita kaitavotra. On the material platform, religious systems are different. Srimad Bhagavatam describes them from the very beginning as dharmaha kaitavaha, cheating religions. None of these religions is actually genuine. The genuine religious system is that which enables one to come to a lover of the become a lover of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the words of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation of the dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. On this platform, there is nothing but the service of the Lord. When a person has no ulterior motive, there is certainly oneness and agreement of principles. Since everyone has a different body and mind, different types of religions are needed, but when one is situated on the spiritual platform, there are no bodily and mental differences. Consequently, on the absolute platform, there is oneness in religion. Verse number 185. Dharma sthapan hetu sadhura vyavhar puri gosanira ye acharan se dharmasar. A devotee's behavior establishes the true purpose of religious principles. The behavior of Madhavendra Puri Goswami is the essence of such religious principles. Purpose Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following commentary on this passage. A sadhu or honest man is called a Mahajan or a Mahatma. The Mahatma is described by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita 9.13. Mahatmanas tu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritah bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. In the material world, the word Mahatma is understood in different ways by different religionists. Mundaners also came up with a different angle of vision. For the conditioned soul busy in sense gratification, a Mahajan is recognized according to the proportion of the sense gratification he offers. For instance, a businessman may consider a certain banker to be Mahajan, and karmis desiring material enjoyment may consider Jaimini to be the Mahajans. There are many yogis who want to control the senses, and for them Patanjali Rishi is Mahajan. For the Jnanis, the atheist Kapila, Vasishtha, Durvasa, Dattatreya and other impersonalist philosophers are Mahajans. For the demons, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, son Meghnad, Jarasandh and others are accepted Mahajans. For materialist anthropologists speculating on the evolution of the body, a person like Darwin is a Mahajan. The scientists who are bewildered by Krishna's external energy have no relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet they are accepted by some as Mahajans. Similarly, philosophers, historians, literary men, public speakers, and social and political leaders are sometimes accepted as Mahajans. Such Mahajans are respected by certain men who have been described in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.19. Shvavid varahostra kharayah samstutah purushah pashuh nayat karana patho petu jatu nam gada grajah. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Thus on the material platform, animalistic leaders are worshipped by animals. Sometimes physicians, psychiatrists and social workers try to mitigate bodily pain, distress and fear, but they have no knowledge of spiritual identity and are bereft of relationship with God. Yet they are considered Mahajans by the illusioned, self-deceived persons. Sometimes accept leaders or spiritual masters from a priestly order that has been officially appointed by the codes of material life. In this way, they are deceived by official priests. Sometimes people accept as Mahajans those who have been designated by Srila Vṛndāvana Das Thakur as Dhanga Vipras or the impostor Brahmanas. Such impostors imitate the characteristics of Srila Haridas Thakur, and they envy Haridas Thakur, who was certainly a Mahajan. They make great artificial endeavors, advertising themselves as great devotees of the Lord or as mystic hypnotists, knowledgeable in witchcraft, hypnotism, and miracles. Sometimes people accept as Mahajans demons like Putana, Trinavrita, Vatsa, Baka, Aghasur, Dhenuka, Kaliya, and Pralamba. Some people accept imitators and adversaries of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Pondraka, Shrigal, Vasudev, and spiritual master of the demons, Shukracharya, or atheists like Charavaka, King Vena, Sugata, and Arhat. People who accept such imitators as Mahajans have no faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they accept godless cheaters who present themselves as incarnations of God and cheat foolish people within the material body by word jugglery. Thus, many rascals are accepted as Mahajans. It is those who are devoid of devotional service who sometimes mistakenly accept persons with mundane motives as Mahajans. The only motive must be Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Sometimes fruitive workers, dry philosophers, non-devotees, mystic yogis, and persons attached to material opulence, women and money are considered Mahajans, but Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.25 gives the following statement about such unauthorized Mahajans. Prayena Veda tad idam na Mahajano yam devya vimohita matir bata mahayalam Mayayalam Trayam Jadi Krita Matir Madhu Pushpitayam Vetanike Mahati Karmani Yujyamanaha. In this material world, karmis or the fruitive actors are accepted as Mahajans by foolish people who do not know the value of devotional service. The mundane intelligence and mental speculative methods of such foolish people are under the control of the three modes of material nature. Consequently, they cannot understand the unalloyed devotional service. They are attracted by the material activities and they become worshippers of material nature. Thus, they are known as the fruitive actors. They even become entangled in material activities disguised as spiritual activities. In the Bhagavad-Gita, such people are described as Vedavad Rataha, supposed followers of the Vedas. They do not understand the real purport of the Vedas, yet they think of themselves as Vedic authorities. People versed in Vedic knowledge must know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedesh cha sarvair aham eva vedya. This is from Bhagavad-Gita 15.15, as told in earlier purports as well. In this material world, a person may be famous as a Karamveer, a successful fruitive worker, or he may be very successful in performing religious duties, or he may be known as hero in mental speculation, Jnana Veera, or he may be a very famous renunciant. In any case, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2.3.56 gives the following opinion in this matter. Neha yat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirtha pada sevai Jivan api mrito hi saha. Anyone whose work is not meant for elevating him to religious life, anyone whose religious ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he is breathing. The conclusion is that all pious activity, fruitive activity, religious principles and renunciations must ultimately lead to devotional service. There are different types of processes for rendering service. One may serve his country, people and society, the Varnashram Dharma system, the sick, the poor, the rich, the women, demigods and so on. All this service comes under the heading of sense gratification or enjoyment in the material world. So it's an eye-opener to know that Varnashram also comes under the sense gratification or the material enjoyment in the world. It is most unfortunate that people who are more or less attracted by such material activity and the leaders of these activities are accepted as Mahajans, great ideal leaders. Actually, they are only misleaders. But an ordinary man cannot understand how he is being misled. Narottam Das Thakur says, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chittite Kariya Aikya. One should accept as one's guide the words of the sadhus, the Shastra and the Guru. A sadhu is a great personality like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Shastras are the injunctions of the revealed scriptures, and the Guru or spiritual master is one who confirms the scriptural injunctions. Accepting the guidance of these three is the actual way of following the great personalities or the Mahajans for real advancement. Mahajano yena gatah sa panthaha. A man covered by illusion cannot understand the proper way. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Dharma sthapana hetu sadhura vyavahara. The behavior of a devotee is the criterion for all other behavior. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself followed the devotional principles and taught others to follow them. Puri Gosanira ye acharana se dharmasara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally followed the behavior of Mahadevendra Puri and advised others to follow his principles. Unfortunately, people have been attracted to the material body since time immemorial, and we are one of them. Yasyatma buddhihi kunape tri dhatuke swadhih kalatradishu bhauma ijya dhih yat tirtha buddhih salile na karhi chij janeshva abhijneshu saeva go kharaha. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers his land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge, there is to be considered like an ass or a cow. So Bhagavatam 10.84.13 this is from those who accept the logic of Gadalika Pravaha and follow in the footsteps of pseudo Mahajans are carried away by the waves of Maya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur thus therefore warns, Miche Mayar Vashe Yach Bheshe Khacha Haburubu Habhai Jive Krishna Das E Vishwas Karle Tar Dukhanai. Don't be carried away by the waves of Maya, just surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna and all miseries will end. Those who follow social customs and behavior forget to follow the path chalked by the Mahajans, thus they are offenders at the feet of Mahajans. Sometimes they consider such Mahajans very conservative, or they create their own Mahajans. In this way, they ignore the principles of the Parampara system. This is a great misfortune for everyone if one does not follow in the footsteps of the real Mahajans. One's plans for happiness will be frustrated. This is elaborately explained later in the Madhya Lila chapter 25 verses 55, 56 and 58. It is there stated, Param karana ishware keha nahi mane swaswa mata sthape paramat matera khandane tate chaya darshana haite tattva nahi jani mahajana ye kahe se satyamani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Vani Amritera Dhara Tinho Ye Khahaye Vastu Se Tattva Sar. People are so unfortunate that they do not accept the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead, they want to be supported by so-called Mahajans or authorities. Tate Chai Darshane Haite Tattva Nahi Jani. We cannot ascertain the real truth simply by following the speculators. We have to follow the footsteps of Mahajans in this disciplic succession, then our attempt will be successful. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Vani Amritera Dhara, whatever is spoken by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incessant flow of nectar. Whoever accepts his words as reality can understand the essence of the absolute truth. No one can ascertain the absolute truth by following the philosophy of Sankhya or the yoga system of Patanjali. For neither the followers of Sankhya nor the yogis who follow Patanjali accept Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nate ve viduhu swartha gatim hi Vishnum. The ambition of such people is never fulfilled. Therefore, they are attracted by the external energy. All those mental speculators may be renowned all over the world as great authorities. Actually, they are not. Such leaders are themselves conservative and not at all liberal. However, if we preach this philosophy, people will consider Vaishnavas very sectarian. Srila Madhavendra Puri was a real Mahajan, but misguided people cannot distinguish the real from the unreal. But a person who is awakened to Krishna consciousness can understand the real religious path chalked out by the Lord and his pure devotees. Sri Madhavendra Puri was a real Mahajan because he understood the absolute truth properly and throughout his life behaved like a pure devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved the method of Sri Madhavendra Puri Therefore, although from the material point of view Sanodiya Brahman was on a lower platform, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered him situated on the highest platform of spiritual realization. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.20 states that there are 12 Mahajans: Brahma, Narad, Shambhu, the 4 Kumars, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janak, Bhishma, Bali, Shukadev, and Yamaraj. To select our Mahajans in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives. His next representative is Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, and the next representatives are the 6 Goswamis. Sri Rup, Sri Sanatan, Sri Bhatt Raghunath, Sri Jeev, Gopal Bhatt, and Das Raghunath. A follower of Vishnu Swami's was Sridhar Swami, the most well-known commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. He was also Mahajan. Similarly, Chandi Das, Vidyapati, and Jayadev were all Mahajans. One who tries to imitate the Mahajans just to become an imitative spiritual master is certainly far away from the following in the footsteps of the Mahajans. Sometimes people cannot actually understand how a Mahajan follows other Mahajans. In this way, people commit offenses and fall from devotional service. Verse 186. Tarko pratishtha shrutayo vibhinna nasavar rishir yasya matam na bhinnam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatah sa pantha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajans advocate. Purport: this is a verse spoken by Yudhishthir Maharaj in the Mahabharat Vanaparva 313.117. Verse 187. Tabe ye vipra prabhu ke bhiksha karaila madhu purira lok sabha prabhu ke dekhite aila. After this discussion, the Brahmans served lunch to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then all the people residing in Mathura came to see the Lord. Verse 188. Laksha Sankhya Lok Aise Nahika Ganana Bahir Hena Prabhu Dila Darshana. People came by the hundreds of thousands and no one could count them. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came out of the house to give audience to the people. Verse 189. Bahutuli Bale Prabhu Hari Bol Dhvani Preme Matta Nache Loka Kari Hari Dhvani. When the people assembled, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his arms and said very loudly, Hari Bol. The people responded to the Lord and became ecstatic as if mad. They began to dance and to vibrate the transcendental sound Hari. Verse 190. Yamunara Chabbisa Ghate Prabhu Kaile Snan Sevipra Prabhu Ke Dekhaya Tirthan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the 24 ghats along the banks of Yamuna, and the Brahman showed him all the places of pilgrimage. So like we say Chaubis in Hindi, in Bengali it is Chabbisa, Chabbisha. Purport: the 24 ghats, the bathing places along the Yamuna, are Avimukta, Adhirudha, Guya Tirtha, Prayag Tirtha, Kankhal Tirtha, Tinduka, Surya Tirtha, Vataswami, Dhruva Ghat, Rishi Tirtha, Moksha Tirtha, Bodha Tirtha, Gokarna, Krishna, Ganga, Vaikuntha, Asikunda, Chatu, Samudrika, Kupa, Akrura Tirtha, Yajnika, Viprasthana, Kubja, Kupa, Rangasthala, Manchasthala, Malayuddha Sthana and Dashavamedh Ghat. So these are the 24 banks, ghats on the banks of the Yamuna in Mathura. Verse 191, Swayambhu Vishram Drigu Vishnu Bhuteshwar Mahavidya Gokarna Adi Dekhila Vistar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited all the holy places on the banks of Yamuna, including Swayambhu, Vishram Ghat, Dirgha, Vishnu, Bhuteshwar, Mahavidya, and Gokarna. Verse 192, Vana Dekhi Bare Yadi Prabhura Manhaila Seta Brahmane Prabhu Sangete Laila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see the various forests of Vrindavan, he took the Brahmanas with him. Verse 193, Madhuvana Tal Kumuda Bahula Vangela Tahan Snan Kari Prema Vishta Haila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the different forests including Madhuvan, Talvan, Kumudvan, and Bahulavan. Wherever he went, he took his bath with great ecstatic love. Purport: the word Vana means forest. Vrindavan is the name given to the forest where Srimati Vrindadevi Tulasi Devi grows profusely. Actually, it is not a forest as we ordinarily consider a forest because it is very thick with green vegetation. There are 12 such Vanas in Vrindavan. Some are located on the western side of the Yamuna and others on the eastern side. The forests situated on the eastern side are Bhadravan, Bilvavan, Lohavan, Bhandiravan, and Mahavan. On the western side are Madhuvan, Talavan, Kumudvan, Bahulavan, Kamyavan, Khadirvan, and Vrindavan. These are the 12 forests of the Vrindavan area. Verse 194, Pathe Gabhi Ghata Kar Chare Prabhure Dekhiya Prabhu ke Bedaye Asi Hunkar Kariya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed through Vrindavan, herds of grazing cows saw him pass and immediately surrounding him began to move very loudly. Verse 195, Gabhi dekhi stabda Prabhu premera tarange vatsalya Gabhi Prabhura chate sab ange. Seeing the herds approach him, the Lord was stunned with ecstatic love. The cows then began to lick his body out of great affection. Verse 196, Sustha hena Prabhu kare ang Karnuyana Prabhu sange chale nahi chhade dhenu gana. Becoming pacified, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to caress the cows, and the cows, being unable to give up his company, went with him. Verse number 197, Kashte srishtye dhenu sab rakhila goyal Prabhu kantha dhvani shuni aise mrigi pal. It was only with great difficulty that the cowherd men were able to keep the cows back. Then when the Lord chanted, all the deer heard his sweet voice and approached him. Verse 198, Mrigamrigi mukha dekhi Prabhu anga chate bhay nahi kare sange yaye vate vate. When the does and bucks came out and saw the Lord's face, they began to lick his body. Not being at all afraid of him, they accompanied him along the path. Verse 199, Shuka Pika Bringa Prabhure Dekhi Panchama Gaye Shikhi Gana Nritya Kari Prabhu Age Yaye. Bumblebees and birds like the parrots and cuckoo all began to sing loudly on the fifth note, and the peacocks began to dance in front of the Lord. Verse 200, Prabhu dekhi Vrindavanera Vriksha Lata Gane Ankura Pulaka Madhu Ashru Varishane. Upon seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the trees and creepers of Vrindavan became jubilant. Their twigs stood up and they began to shed tears of ecstasy in the form of honey. Verse 201, Phula Phala Bhari Dal Pade Prabhu Paye Bandhu Dekhi Bandhu Yena Bheta Lena Liyaye. The tree branches and creepers, overloaded with fruits and flowers, fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and greeted him with various presentations as if they were friends. Verse 202. Prabhu dekhi Vṛndāvanera sthavara jangama anandita bandhu yena dekhe bandhu gana. Thus all the moving and non-moving living entities of Vrindavan became very jubilant to see the Lord. It was as if friends were made happy by seeing another friend. Verse 203. Ta sabar priti dekhi Prabhu bhavaveshe sabha sane krida kare hena tar veshe. Seeing their affection, the Lord was moved by ecstatic love. He began to sport with them exactly as a friend sports with his friends. Thus he voluntarily came under the control of his friends. Verse 204. Prati vrikshalata prabhu karena alingana pushpadi dhyane karena krishne samarpana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to embrace each and every tree and creeper, and they began to offer their fruits and flowers as if in meditation. Verse 205. Ashru kampa pulaka preme sharira asthire Krishna bala bale uchai shware. The Lord's body was restless, and tears, trembling, and jubilation were manifest. He said very loudly, "Chant Krishna, chant Krishna." Verse 206. Sthavara jangam mili kare Krishna dhvani prabhura gambhira sware yena pratidhvani. All moving and non-moving creatures then began to vibrate the transcendental sound of Hare Krishna as if they were echoing the deep sound of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 207. Mrigera gola dhari prabhu karena rodane mrigera pulaka ange ashru nayane. This is verse 207. The Lord then clasped the necks of the deer and began to cry. There was jubilation manifest in the bodies of deer, and tears were in their eyes. Verse 209. 208. Vriksha dale shuka shari dila darshana taha dekhi prabhura kichu shunite haila mana. Shuka shari are the male and female parrots. When a male and female parrot appeared on the branches of a tree, the Lord saw them and wanted to hear them speak. Verse 209. Shuka sharika prabhura hate udi pade prabhu ke shunan Krishnera guna shloka pade. Both parrots flew onto the hands of the Lord and began to chant the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and the Lord listened to them. Verse 210. Saundaryam lalanali dhairya dalanam lila rama stambhini viryam kandu kita dari varyam amalaha pare parardham gunaha shilam sarva jananurjanam aho yasyam asmat prabhur vishwam vishwa janina kirtir avatat krishno jagan mohana. The male parrot sang, "The glorifications of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beneficiary to everyone in the universe. His beauty is victorious over the gopis of Vrindavan, and it subdues their passions. His pastimes astound the goddess of fortune, and his bodily strength turns Govardhan Hill into a small toy-like ball. His spotless qualities are unmanifested, and his behavior satisfies everyone. Lord Krishna is attractive to everyone. Oh, may our Lord maintain the whole universe." Purport: this verse is found in the Govinda Lilamrit 13.29. So moving on to next verse. Verse 211. Shuka mukhe shuni tabe Krishnera varnana sharika padaye tabe radhika varnana. After hearing the descriptions of Lord Krishna from the male parrot, the female parrot began to recite a description of Srimati Radharani. Verse 212. Shri Radhikaya Priyata Surupta Susilata Nartana Gana Chidri Gana Chaturi Gunali Sampat Kavita Cha Rajate Gunali Sampat Kavita Cha Rajate Jagan Mano Mohan Chitta Mohini. The female parrot says Srimati Radharani's affection is her exquisite beauty and good behavior, her artistic dancing and chanting, and her poetic compositions are also attractive, that they attract the mind of Krishna. He also attracts the mind of everyone in the universe. Purport: this verse is also found in the Govinda Lilamrit 13.30. Verse number 213. Puna Shuka Kahe Krishna Madan Mohana Tabe Ar Shloka Shuka Karila Patana. Thereafter the male parrot said, Krishna is the enchanter of the mind of Cupid. He then began to recite on the verse. Verse 214. Vamshidhari Jagannari Chitta Hari Sa Sharike Bihari Gopa Naribhir Jian Madan Mohana. Okay. Vamshidhari Jagan, this is verse 214. Vamshidhari Jagannari Chitta Hari Sa Sarike Bihari Gopa Naribhir Jian Madan Mohana. The male parrot then said, my dear Sari, to the female parrot, Shri Krishna carries a flute and enchants the hearts of all women throughout the universe. He is specifically the enjoyer of the beautiful gopis. He is the enchanter of Cupid also. Let him be glorified. Purport: this verse is also found in the Govind Lilamrit 13.31. Verse 215. Punah Shari kahe shuke kari parihas taha suni prabhure haila vismay priyam ullas. Then the female parrot began to speak jokingly to the male parrot, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was struck with wonderful ecstatic love to hear her speak. Verse 216. Radha Sange Yada Bhati Tada Madan Mohana Yada Anita Vishwamoho Pi Swayam Madan Mohitaha. The female parrot said, when Lord Krishna is with Radharani, he is the enchanter of Cupid. Otherwise, when he is alone, he himself is the enchanter of erotic feelings, even though he enchants the whole powers. This is another verse from the Govind Lilamrit 13.32. Verse 217. Shuka Sharudi Punah Gela Vriksha Dale Mayurera Nritya Prabhu Dekhe Kotuhole. Both parrots then flew onto a tree branch, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to watch the dancing of the peacocks with curiosity. Verse 218. Mayurera Kantha Dekhi Prabhura Krishna Smriti Haila Prema Veshe Mahaprabhu Bhumite Padila. When the Lord saw the bluish necks of the peacocks, his resemblance of Krishna immediately awakened, and he fell to the ground in ecstatic love. Verse 219. Prabhure Murchit Dekhi Saita Brahmana Bhattacharya Sange Kare Prabhura Santarpana. When the Brahman saw that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unconscious, he and Bhagavad-Gita took great care of Mahaprabhu. Verse 220. Aste Vaste Mahaprabhura Lena Bahirvas Jalaseka Kare Ange Pastrira Batas. The hastily sprinkled water over the Lord's body, and then they took up his outer cloth and began to fan him with it. Verse 221. Prabhu Karne Krishna Naam Kahe Uchchakari Chetana Pana Prabhu Yana Gada Gadi. They then began to chant the holy name of Krishna into the Lord's ear. When the Lord regained consciousness, he began ruling on the ground. Verse 222. Kantaka Durgama Vane Anga Kshata Haila Bhattacharya Kole Kari Prabhure Susta Kaila. When the Lord rolled on the ground, sharp thorns injured his body. Taking him on his lap, Balbhadra Bhattacharya pacified him. Verse 233, Krishna Veshe Prabhura Preme Gara Gara Mana Bol Bol Kari Uthi Kare Na Nartana. The mind of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered in ecstatic love of Krishna. He immediately stood up and said, chant, chant. Then he himself began to dance. Verse 224, Bhattacharya se Vipra Krishna Naam Gaye, Nachite Nachite Pathe Prabhu Chali Yaye. Being thus ordered by Lord, both Balbhadra and the Brahman began to chant the holy name of Krishna, and the Lord began dancing and chanting. Okay. Bhattacharya se Vipra Krishna Naam Gaye, Nachite Nachite Pathe Prabhu Chali Yaye. Being thus ordered by Lord, both Balbhadra and the Brahmana began to chant the holy name of Krishna. Then the Lord, dancing and dancing, proceeded along the path. Verse 2-5, Prabhura Prema Veshe Deki Brahmana Vismita Prabhura Raksha Lagi Vipra Haila Chintita. The Brahman was astounded to see the symptoms of ecstatic love exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He then became anxious to give the Lord protection. Verse 2-6, Nila Chale Chila Yaiche Prema Veshe Mana Vṛndāvana Yaite Pathe Haila Shataguna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind was absorbed in ecstatic love at Jagannath Puri, and when he passed along the road on the way to Vrindavan, that love increased 100 times. Verse 127, Sahasra Guna Prema Bade Mathura Darshane Laksha Guna Prema Bade Brahmena Yabevane. The Lord's ecstatic love increased 1,000 times when he visited Mathura, but it increased 100,000 times when he wandered in the forest of Vrindavan. Verse 2-8 and 2-9. Anya desha preme uchale Vrindavan name sakshat brahmaye ebe se Vrindavane preme gargara manaratri divase snana bhikshadi nirvaha karena abhyase. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was elsewhere, the very name of Vrindavan was sufficient to increase his ecstatic love. Now, when he was actually traveling in the Vrindavan forest, his mind was absorbed in great ecstatic love day in and day. Mind was absorbed in great ecstatic love day and night. He ate and bathed simply out of habit. So Lord was really ecstatic in Vrindavan. Verse 230. Emata preme yavat brahmila bharavana ekatra likhilun sarvatra na yai varna. Thus I have written a description of the ecstatic love of Lord Chaitanya manifested in one of the places he visited while walking through the 12 forests of Vrindavan. To describe what he experienced everywhere would be impossible. Verse 231. Vrindavane haila prabhura yateka premera vikar Koti Granthe Ananta Likhena Tahar Vistar. Lord Ananta writes millions of books elaborately describing the transformation of ecstatic love experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan. Verse 232. Tabu likhi bare nare tar ek kana uddesha karite kari dik darshana. Since Lord Ananta himself cannot be described even a fragment of these pastimes, I'm pointing out the direction. Verse 233. Jagat Bhasila Chaitanya Lilar Pathare Yandra Yata Shakti Tatata Pathare Santare. The whole world became merged in the inundation of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One can swim in that water to the extent that he has the strength. Verse 234. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Yar Ash Chaitanya Charitamrit Kahe Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrit, following in their footsteps. Purport. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to Shri Chaitanya Charitamrit, Madhya Lila, 17th chapter, describing the Lord's traveling to Vrindavan. And we will continue with chapter 18 next time, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit to Sri Vṛndāvana. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.